All right, everybody, welcome back to the Adventure RX podcast brought to you by Pinpoint Physical Therapy. Host is Nick Anderson. My guest today is Mr. Alex Schlopy, one of my favorite skiers of all time. A dude I've been watching for a couple decades now, through the highs, through the lows. Alex's story is really, really interesting. Hopefully we can get into some of his background today. X Games, Big Air gold medalist, FIS gold and Dew Tour gold, I believe all in the same season, or at least in back-to-back seasons. So really hit the peak of skiing back in the day, before all the triple and quadruple corks, back when skiing was cooler, I think. But yeah, Alex, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate your time. I'm excited to have this chat today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited too. Looking forward to what we get into here.
Yeah, absolutely. You're out in Park City right now. That's where you're from, right?
Yeah, I was born and raised here and still here.
Like I was saying before we got on, it's a hard place to be as far as skiing, especially the freestyle world. You got PC, you also got Woodward there. So, what was it like growing up in an area like that? I know your family was pretty much big ski family, right?
Yeah, everyone in my family pretty much skis, athletes at least. But it's just a big playground. Like everybody, all my friends in school, all we did was mountain bike, ski, rollerblade, skateboard, and the whole town was just like this village. So yeah, it was a really cool place to grow up and very, very fortunate.
Yeah, we've been out there for a couple trips now, and when we go on these trips, it's fun to imagine, like, man, what if we grew up here? What if we lived out here now? And, how fun would that be with all the, just outdoor adventures like you're saying?
Yeah, it's endless. It really is. I'm still discovering stuff pretty much every week. So,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
awesome. Growing up in a ski family, when did you realize that, freestyle was really your thing? I know you had a background in gymnastics, I believe, and then you kind of transitioned into the freestyle team.
Yeah, I kind of like as a young kid, I didn't really love skiing. Like I'd go out and ski in our daycare. Yeah, our daycare actually had like a ski coaching program. But it wasn't until I got into middle school, which was about 3 years after I had started gymnastics. And I had a coach who was into free skiing, Mike Hanley. He coached Nick Gepper and, a bunch of other guys. But really, he's the one that started planting the seed. And then I met Josh Christensen when I got into middle school, and then he basically made me fall in love with skiing. Like he showed me all the
Nice.
magazines, he showed me the videos, and we started building jumps in his backyard and just chucking it, getting wrecked.
Yeah.
But that's when I fell in love with it. I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like it's kind of do what you want, see what you can do,
Right.
kind of limitless. So
Yeah.
that's when I fell in love with it, which was around 11 years old.
Around 11. Yeah. And I think back then too, there wasn't as much footage, right? Like
Right.
Instagram, Facebook wasn't
It
really a
was
thing.
just,
So,
yeah, it
so
was
we
just
had
movies.
a couple edits a year,
Yep.
like Warren Miller, a couple of the freestyle films would come out. But like you're saying, it's just kind of hucking yourself and like figuring out what some of this stuff was, is really cool time. How young did you start competing? Like when you really knew that you had a knack for this?
I tried to compete almost immediately, but it was pretty apparent that I was out of my league. I went to the U.S. Open, and
Okay.
the jumps were just like too big. I think I was 12.
Gotcha.
Um, and so that was the first event I attempted to do, and I pulled out because I was just terrified.
Yeah.
And then that next year, when I was 13, I did the Vermont Open Juniors division, and that was the first event I won. And
Nice.
that's when I was kind of like, all right, there might be something here. And I think Cyber Cartel, if you remember that company, they
Yes.
were
Yeah.
doing a competition series called the Young Guns, and I think those were like kind of the first two competitions I did.
And so you were so young when you started winning. At what point did you think that man, I'm making some money doing this. Maybe it's, going forward, I could do this for, do this for work, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it was. Well, I got my first like paid contract when I was 14.
You're
And I
14.
signed
Wow.
that with,
Okay.
yeah, it was pretty crazy. And it wasn't like a lot of money, but it was enough to get the gears turning and be like that's when I knew I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. And that's when I laser focused and went to the
Gotcha.
winter sports school. Like I actually failed out of eighth grade, just because I was gone skiing all the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and the winter sports school kind of stepped up and offered a scholarship, and that's when things really took off, and that's when it became pretty clear that like this is what I was going to do for a career, at least my first career.
Right. And I mean, I'm assuming with a lot of the travel and whatnot, like you had to have all, pay for all that, pay for the hotels, lift tickets and all that. So you're probably making enough to have all that, at least the base expenses covered, I guess. Is that true?
Right. It was
Yeah.
it was close. Yeah, my mom had some good connections. It was actually Colby Stevenson's mom who
Okay.
worked for an airline and gave us her buddy passes. So a lot of the
Nice.
a lot of the events I went to were because of Colby Stevenson's mom, which is kind of
So
funny.
cool. I love that.
Yeah,
Are
so
you,
we had a lot of go ahead.
are you friends with Colby?
Oh yeah, Colby, I've
Yeah.
known Colby since he was a little kid. Like I taught him backflips when he was like 5 years old on his trampoline at a dinner party, and I knew he was going to be a force from very young.
Yeah. I love that.
He's an
Such a fun
animal.
skier to watch.
Yeah, he is.
So then a few more years later, you're competing, you're winning. And then we get into that like 2010 to 2011, 12, where you're really hitting your pinnacle, right? You get the X Games gold. What would you say, like, what was your pinnacle? What was your favorite win? Or what was like maybe your favorite best achievement, would you say, as far as in the competing world for skiing?
I think initially, like the biggest win was just getting invited to the X Games. Like that
Oh yeah.
was,
Yeah.
like that was the childhood dream. I'd been
Yeah.
watching it. Um, and when I went, like I had a lot of personal goals, but I didn't really expect to do well amongst like the entire field.
Right.
Like I really just wanted to do a double cork 16 in slope style because I wasn't invited to Big Air initially
Okay.
and had crashed both my runs and never made it to the last jump. So I basically ended up asking the event coordinators to get me a spot, or at least
For
like
big
an alternate spot for Big Air.
for
Yeah.
Big Air. Gotcha. Okay. I didn't
Yep.
know that. Cool.
Yeah. And so that's how I got in. I think Tom Wallish got injured and had to drop out, so I ended up taking his spot.
Gotcha. Is that the year did you win your first year there?
That was the first year.
Wow.
And yep.
That's awesome. Now, what was like what's the qualifications you have to is it kind of a who's who, like who to get invited there, or is it a point system? Is it a little bit of both?
That's a
I
good
figured
question.
yeah.
I think it's a little bit of both. So there wasn't really a point system set up when I was coming up. Like, FIS hadn't gotten involved yet.
Right.
So they kind of looked at your results and it was, if your name was popping up. I think still they can kind of invite whoever. They have a lot more freedom that way. But, FIS sanctioned events, it's all points.
Gotcha. Yeah, I figured X Games was more of a I mean, it's a big entertainment event, right? Like that's what it's all about. So getting some of the popular names in there, and maybe if they're not winning, like Henrik, for example, like he's not competing extremely competitive all year round. Like, dude, everyone wants to watch Henrik.
He's the
Like get
king.
him, yeah, get him in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I think it's still fun. Like, so, skiing, snowboarding, action sports, like we need that. It's important. There's a lot of really creative guys. Like, there's so many different routes you can go.
Hmm.
And to kind of bring that collective together, I think is really cool.
Yeah, I agree. And even if you're someone that like myself wasn't skilled enough or didn't have the opportunity to like make it as a skier, like getting involved working with skiers in different ways. Like you can do media, you can get involved in organizing events, you can work for FIS, you can be a judge. Like I did a few judge events for USASA, and I didn't love it, but getting involved in
Yeah,
different ways. So
that's cool.
definitely various ways to spread the love in a sport that obviously it's a lot of our favorite things to do. So,
Yeah, so true. It's awesome.
back in back then too, right around the X Games, you did the Yoon Olsen Super Session.
Yes.
Dude, what a cool event, man. Tell us about that. And I can post a link to the edit there, but it was who were the three you were on team? Was it Team USA?
Team USA, yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that and like who you skied with and how you got involved in everything because I think the ski world as a whole like wishes that the Joss edits were still a thing because man, those were so fun.
That, in my opinion, was one of the coolest events ever. So essentially you get 2 weeks to film a video part. Different countries have a team, and then I think New Schoolers had a team too. So yeah, so that's where it was like there was quite a few guys from the U.S. as well.
Yeah, I think
Um,
LJ was on Team New Schoolers, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
LJ and I think Gus.
Yep.
Was it Matt Walker? I don't know. Was it Matt?
Yeah, I can't remember. There was a
I,
few.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun though. So basically, I got invited by way of winning the Dumont Cup.
Okay.
Um, so Tom and Simon were the team captains. They
Okay.
were already, yeah. I mean, they're two legends, right?
Just dynamic duo for sure.
Yep. And then there it was kind of, I think Bobby Brown was initially supposed to be the rookie, but he had gotten injured. And I feel like a lot of my career was just luck in someone else's, getting injured or like I just, somehow made it in. At least at the beginning, which is kind of what happens, I guess. But
Yeah, I think that happens in all sports. It's Tom Brady. What
yeah,
Bledsoe got hurt and Brady went in. It's like, well, here's
yeah.
Brady. It happens in all sports. I think.
Just imagine if like, Brady never got discovered.
Right.
There's so many talented people out there that just, yeah, I think about that sometimes. But yeah, it was cool. I mean, after winning the Dumont Cup, I think Tom got second. So they were like, all right, we'll invite the rookie.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Dude,
that was really when things kind of kicked off because that was right before the season where I won the X Games and the Dew Tour and stuff
okay.
like that.
Yep,
But yeah,
I'm
you get
sure.
2 weeks with, you know, legends and
Right.
make an edit.
So fun. And those are I mean, the two biggest guys in the game and still two of the biggest, if not still.
But yeah,
I'm sure you had. So what was it like after, back in, I call it the heyday where, the money purses were a little bigger and everyone was kind of partying hard and everything. What was it like back like in the heyday back then where, like Dumont won with that double front flip and now you got like, 8-year-olds doing that at Park City every day.
yeah,
Um, but it was just a different time. Like what was it like back then with all the I would say the bigger comps, I guess. There's definitely bigger purses.
yeah,
Sponsorships were bigger. Target was in on it with Dumont. Like we all knew that.
yep.
Like what was that like back then?
It's really hard to explain. It was like, I guess like rock star lifestyle and,
Hmm.
making enough money to where like you could definitely make mistakes and not really worry about it. And, it was pretty reckless. There's a
Yeah.
lot of, but it all in good fun. Like, nothing too crazy, but it was just a very different time. Like now I feel like athletes are kind of being treated like influencers or y- it's just very different. Like we were pioneering and I was kind of on the tail end of the pioneers, but like it was just they call it the golden era for a reason. Like it was just the energy and like the connection between all of us.
Hmm.
Um, it was one of the coolest experiences I think I could imagine in
Would you
anything.
say back then compared to now that as a group, the top 10 or 20 guys, was everyone pretty close, or were there some, kind of lone wolves? Or like, there's so much skill now. There's no way everyone's friends with everybody, right? Like,
Totally.
there's cliques and niches now. But I would imagine back then you guys were, for the most part, pretty tight. I mean, there wasn't that many of you guys doing it at that level.
Yeah, it was definitely very tight knit. I mean, there may have been a few lone wolves, but at the end of the day, like everybody was included, and it was fun to be able to cheer on the people you were competing against and actually mean it, like they were your
Sure.
friends.
Right. Right. Like, of course, you wanted to win, but
Yeah.
most likely one of your friends, if you didn't win, one of your buddies, was going to win, and you can
Yeah.
all go and get some drinks afterwards together anyway. So
Yep. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I thought that was really cool.
now with, progressing to that level, you guys were at that elite level. That doesn't come without obviously some risk. It's a high impact sport. I know you've had a few pretty nasty injuries, a few of the head injuries. I believe
Yeah.
one was a car accident, correct?
Yes.
How did, as you improve, this is one question I like to ask, you guys at the high level, as you progressed and as the skill and the danger went up, more speed, more height, more spins, more flips, and then as you got more injured, like how would you say that you balanced the risk versus reward, or risk versus injury, as some things started piling up? And how much did that affect, I guess, your career going forward as you got a little older?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, but right out of the gate when I'm 18 years old, the risk reward it was easy to justify. I was willing
Right.
to take as much risk as whatever it took, and I didn't necessarily need as much of a reward.
Hmm.
But it did come, and there was a good balance of that until, like you were saying, things just started compounding, and it's like you get one injury, like say, I've torn my AC joint 8 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the amount of times I've had to ski through an AC injury, or a meniscus injury, and like, you have your obligations to your sponsors and, and to yourself.
Right.
But, after a few years of doing that and pushing through even little injuries, they become a much bigger problem if you're not taking care of them, as you well know.
For sure.
And so it got to the point, I mean, to kind of lead into what I'm sure we'll get into, that's kind of what led me to become addicted to, painkillers and things like that, is like the pain had gotten so bad, and my ability to just shove things to the back and, not focus on anything that I really needed to resolve. Like that, it just compounded so much that at some point it was going to explode.
Yeah. It's almost a pressure cooker, right? When you're at
Totally.
that high level. Obviously, you're an extreme competitor. Like, you can say you're not, but at that level, you have to be, right? You got to be an alpha competitor for sure.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
do.
the self pressure, the pressure from sponsors, from maybe friends and family, even, for sure. I think it's really cool how open you've been with your story, with addiction and your struggles there. Um, you know, when was the moment that you really, maybe a self realization moment that you're like, okay, this is becoming an issue, and it's time to maybe get some help to help solve some of these problems.
Sorry. That's a good question. It was actually after some of my sponsors had pulled out and dropped out. I had gotten injured and I'd pulled out of the Do Tour, which essentially meant that I was not going to get invited to X Games and all these other events that year. So, sponsors made the decision they had to make. And when they pulled out, and it was like my career kind of drifted away, but all those injuries and all that, unmanaged trauma started coming up.
Right.
And I was injured actually when, all this was happening. And that's when I was like, I'm just going to take, one extra painkiller or two extra painkillers. Because it was starting to numb that emotional pain that was starting to come up. And, it got to the point, what really when I really knew that there was a problem was when I tried to stop taking painkillers and I started having really bad withdrawals. And that's, I think, honestly, like if I could have gotten past the withdrawals right at the beginning without falling back into the cycle, I think I might have been able to avoid, the next couple years of horror. But, it's those painkillers can be so powerful. I mean, we see it so much in society now. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
I think it's one reason. I hope going forward, physical therapists can be seen as more of a primary care clinician
Yeah.
where, man, we're all about reducing pain. And as you've known, being an athlete, working out, sleeping, eating right, doing all the right stuff can really have a huge impact on chronic issues for sure. Now, is it
Biggest.
going to make the pain go away? If you take like a opioid painkiller, no, but you also get the added benefits of strength, mobility, endorphin increase. You get all the good stuff from exercising. Yeah, man, I mean, your story is definitely heavy. Were you still trying to compete, kind of struggling through some of these personal struggles? And
Yes.
like, how would you like career? Like, how did this affect your career going forward as far as when you were trying to compete still?
It was really a tough time because it's like I knew what was happening, but I didn't want to accept it. Um, and I actually did go up and compete in the Hella Big Air. That was kind of the last competition I did because it was one of the few that I could get invited to, and they
Right.
actually had a pretty big prize purse. Um, but just to be completely honest, like I was high when I won that event, and that wasn't good either
Right.
because it kind of validated that it isn't. It made me feel like it wasn't that bad, and that I could just keep doing that, and
Keep like, hey, I won like this. I don't see a problem with it. I just won a bunch of money.
yep. Well, yeah,
Totally.
yeah, and then that was kind of after that. The drugs overpowered the skiing, and I just it's the spiral really began. And that's when things just got really really dark. It's like I was willing to get rid of everything that I had worked so hard to accomplish and to material things, and just let go of my own moral boundaries and code,
Yeah.
and you just fell as far down that road as you can go.
And that's the scary thing with opioid addiction, especially. I think physicians are becoming more aware and not prescribing at least as heavy doses.
Yeah.
Um, but man, it doesn't have to be like the homeless crackhead down on the corner, man. It's like
No.
suburban pro skier. You have everything. It's like it can hit anyone.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting to a point, at least the last decade, I would say, where that awareness and people like you like coming forward talking about it, like it's such a healthy thing to do because it helps others that are might be going through the same struggle, or preventing any more people from maybe getting to that point where they're
Totally.
really having to get help. When you had to when you finally got the help you needed, and you stepped away from competing, what was that like identity shift like for you? Like pro athletes, you're pro when you're 14, like you're a skier, like that's what
Yeah.
you are, like that's your identity, right? And you see
100%.
you see this a lot in like NFL guys and like NBA guys. A lot of them just kind of fall off and go bankrupt, or they're making like all this money, and it's just like a complete identity crash. Like what? And then you're dealing with this other stuff too. Like what was that like the first maybe couple years where you take a step back from really pushing the professional side of your career?
I the best how I described it back then is it was felt like identity theft. Like I just
Yeah.
literally I had no idea who I was outside. Like even with the sponsors, like I affiliated myself with sponsors that I had, and to have those all that stuff removed, and it was
Right.
like it was just like a who am I? like I still knew that I loved skiing deep down, but I definitely needed to step away and I wasn't trying to get up and ski. I spent a lot of time just depressed and in bed. Like it was hard for me to get out of bed. I didn't see a reason to get up. I didn't want to go work a normal job in the ski shop or, whatever. But at some point, I just kind of swallowed my pride and did it. I did landscaping, working in ski shops. Probably 10, 15 different jobs trying to figure out what to do. And
Yeah.
then during that whole process, like I fell back in love with skiing, which in turn became, a huge it became a huge reason why I'm able to stay sober and focus on, the positive things in life. So it kind of came full circle.
I love that. Would you say, do you like skiing more now? You're doing it for fun, or back when you're competing?
It's a great
Tough,
question.
tough question for sure.
Yeah. So, like, I loved competing and I loved seeing what I could do, but like the way I experience skiing now is it's just like beautiful. Like I think I love it more now. Um, for more raw reasons. It's not so much like ego driven.
Right.
Like that stuff was fun, right? Like especially when I was younger. But now it's
Hmm.
like I love sharing the passion of skiing with people, even people who've never really skied. Like most people wouldn't even have the patience to go out and ski with a lot of these like new. I'm like, dude, I love it. Like I want to see you guys
Yeah.
fall in love with this sport and see why it's so special.
Trying to spread the love for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it almost sounds like an ego death with you, or it was like, man, you're doing this for the all the benefits and everything, and now you're just doing it because, dude, I love skiing.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Ego death 100%, which is scary. Like, it feels like the death of you, but it really showed me who I really am and, connected me a lot more with like people and the things I love. And, I think that's why I'm so grateful that everything happened, even the addiction, like everything. Like, I wouldn't change it. Like, it made me a better person. So,
Yeah, that's heavy, man.
yeah, it was a journey. It's like to package it in just a small amount of time is impossible, but it was just so powerful. And like what I experienced, even like at the lowest level, like when I was heavily addicted to drugs, like the people I met and like my perspective just shift. I was like, man, these are supposed to be like the earth's worst people, right? But like I didn't
Right.
see that. I saw a very different side to what was going on.
Was there anyone you want to shout out that was very pivotal during that time, maybe at the lows that really helped you
Yeah.
through?
Well, one of the biggest shout outs, and he's actually passed away, but was a buddy I met in rehab who we call him Gilbert Garrett. But like, I wanted to leave. Like, I
Hmm.
just couldn't deal with the pain. I felt so empty and uncomfortable. And I was like, I know it's going to make this better. And, every day he would just grab me and take me for a walk and be like, hey, dude, like, you got this. Like,
Yeah.
I,
Awesome.
and then shortly after I got out, he had actually relapsed and overdosed.
Sorry to hear that.
But yeah, I'll shout him out because it was huge. Nobody was really able to be by my side at that point because I was lifeless.
With younger athletes and maybe skiers or snowboarders or that are in sports are results based, right? Like even in these sports, for maybe some younger kids that are getting into it that are maybe dealing with mental health or maybe as far as an addiction. Any advice that you want to say if anyone's going to be listening to this?
Yeah, it's first and foremost, you'd be surprised at how many people are dealing with something like that.
Hmm.
So first, you're not alone. But second, like there's so much beauty in life that you'll find on the other side. And whether like if you have the ability to stop yourself from going too far down that road, highly recommend just turning off as soon as possible because it's um it's really hard. Like it's really the amount of people it hurts, outside of yourself. That's one thing, but the fact is you're gonna have to you journey 5 years into the woods, you got to journey 5 years back. Is kind of what they say. So what you're doing now, at some point, like you're gonna have to make your way back out. And it gets harder and harder because the further down you go, the less hope you have, the less energy and drive, and you lose yourself. And at the end of the day, you have to do it for you. Like there's so many times people do it like, well, I'll do it for my kid or my parents or my sister, whatever it is. Like that's fine if it can kind of give you the nudge, but you have to do it for yourself. And I'm telling you right now, like living sober, I have 10 times more fun than any time I was partying. Like it's just different. Like it's just different. I shifted my perspective. I didn't even leave the town I was in, Like I live a completely different life.
Yeah, that's as far as doing it for you, you got to be a little selfish, right? And some
100%.
some of my patients that I see that are so far down the road in maybe chronic pain or just kind of letting themselves go, not eating right, whatever it may be. I use that same analogy. It's like, man, it took you 5 years to get to this point. I wish I could give you a magic massage or a dry needling session to take this away, but it's going to be months and maybe years of lifestyle change, and and that's hard, right? Like,
Yep.
and I can't hold their hand during that. Like they have to do that themselves. I can
Yeah.
coach and help and push, but I'm not. You're not with someone 24/7, and you can't. They got to want it themselves, essentially.
Yeah. And like you're saying, you're giving them that nudge and guidance, which is it's kind of similar what you can do with anyone and are ready to get into recovery is you can give them guidance and give them a nudge, but the
Right.
work has to come from them. And I think once you start seeing the results, which can take a little bit of time, it's like at first
Mhm.
you're kind of flying blind, but
Right.
once you see some results, it's like you almost like for me that became the addiction was like how good I could feel or how good I was starting to feel and how good can I feel
Right.
and working
Yeah.
towards that.
Yeah. Like once you get the ball rolling, even if it's a slow roll, you start building that momentum, like small wins. Maybe you wake up with a little bit less back pain this day,
Yes,
in my patients' cases, and
which is huge.
for sure. What's life looking like now for you? Are you exercising a lot? How much are you skiing? I know you're still out in Park City.
Yeah, so I have been coaching actually some of the young talent here. One being Sam Beck, who,
Nice.
yeah, he's just an animal, dude. He's 10
Yeah,
years old.
I think you posted one of his videos recently on the big jump there. Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, he's doing dub 10 at 10 years old. I'm just like,
Wow.
that's cool. It's fun to be a part of that journey.
Yeah.
But my full-time gig is I just started as the assistant director of membership for one of the private clubs here in Park City.
Awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I get to ski quite a bit. I got almost probably 40 days this year
Great.
while working full time. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a hack. I just started working at these private ski clubs,
Right.
and I'm like, hey, we're all going to slip out the door when things get slow, and we're going to ski. And I think that is like the coolest little hack.
Hey man, the inner ski bum lives within at all times. I feel you for sure.
Always.
Always. I love that. You know, it sounds like skiing is obviously going to be a part of you. Are you more or less at peace with like where you're at now? Or are you still, is there a part of you that's like, man, I still want to try to compete a little bit? I know a few years ago you're trying to push. I was watching some of the results.
Yeah.
Where are you at with all that? Yeah.
Man, so I mean that was fun. That was like right when COVID hit, and I was like, you know what, I'm
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
gonna do it because I knew physically I could at least
Right.
give it a shot. And like that whole journey was awesome. but I did end up getting hurt at the end and having a
Okay.
short relapse, where I was like, dude, is this worth it?
Yeah.
Because this is probably a little over 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago. But yeah, getting injured and then having to wrestle the painkillers again. I was like, so I'm at peace with not competing slope style or big air for sure.
Sure. Sure.
If the opportunity came up to do like a big mountain,
I knew this was coming, man.
dude,
Yeah. That'd be so fun.
I would do it 100% because I
Yeah. Yeah.
know I still have gas in the tank and like it would just be fun. And I think at this point, like I know how to handle, the hard side of things if, injury does come up or something.
Right.
I have a good support system too, where it's like if my all my devices fail, I have plenty of other support around me. So that would be because I just love it so much. I feel like I would almost do better now than
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah. Old wily veteran on the back country. It seems like
I,
that's the way. That's
I'd
the
have to
way it
brush some
goes.
rust off. It would take a little bit, but I think I could do it.
You know whose content I've loved the last few years is um, Sammy.
Yes.
Carl, dude,
I love Sammy, dude.
it's
Like
incredible.
he was like a big brother to me, but his skiing is some of my favorite to watch.
So fun, and they do. He does such a good job at putting that footage together every year. It's been pretty
Yeah.
incredible.
He's been doing it forever too. Like he was one of my first idols in war from Poor Boys.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, what a gangster.
dude, truly.
Who's your skiing goat? Best
That's a
greatest of
good
all time.
question. As time's gone on, I would just have to say Candide
Yeah.
because, dude, like across the board, every single thing, like the stuff he does is unbelievable, and he's a cat, you know, and the stuff I don't know. It's just for me, he's the best.
It's almost like it's hard to tell what's photoshopped and not with him.
That's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't
Like
seem real.
it's all legit for the most part. I know he's had some like CGI parts and stuff, but yeah, it's almost so crazy. It's like there's Red Bull and there's like the stuff he's doing is even crazier. You know, it's
Yeah,
just
I agree. It's it's just mind bending because like when you actually go look at any of the features that he say like double backflip, one
just
hundred plus feet down,
into
like
like
you
a
just went and looked
mogul
at.
field, right? He's going
Yeah,
like it's just crazy.
it's crazy, and he did pretty much every discipline leading up to that where he's at now, and he reinvented himself and came back. I just think like his whole journey. I think that's why he's the GOAT.
Yeah, when we're straight lining through, not big bumps that he does, that's crazy, but like some crud or something, we'll be like,
Yeah.
Candide, Candide, we're just kind of leaning back and just scuttling through it.
Yep.
So
But I will say Tanner is a close second just because of everything he's overcome and his just drive and passion. Like,
yeah, that dude, I love skiing, but then you meet a guy like him and it's like, dude, it doesn't even make sense because
no,
he shouldn't want to ski anymore.
no, but by
I
no
mean,
means.
he doesn't need to prove anything. He's got enough money, like, but that dude he's just built different, man. He's just
He
wired
is,
differently.
dude,
He's
totally.
wired. We met him out at we met him at he's in Park City, right?
Yeah,
Or is it
he's,
Woodward? At Woodward we met him, yeah.
yeah,
I would love
he's
to have
there.
him on here to talk about some stuff. That would be a crazy conversation.
Yeah, it would. He's seen it all. I mean, he's seen the beginning of the golden. I mean, he was the
He
pioneer, right?
was. I mean, he was it, man. He was like the pinnacle. It was him and Simon battling.
Totally. I mean, that's what got me hooked. Like watching those two, I was like, dude, this is
Dude,
awesome.
the half pipe battles, man,
Yep.
were so sick. And I actually found myself cheering more for Simon than
Yeah.
Tanner because
'Cause
Simon
he
was just like
boosted.
amplitude.
Yes, I was right there. But also, like Tanner would pull something out. I'm like, dude, like,
So technical, like so skilled.
yeah. God, that was a
So
fun time.
just those battles were so fun.
Yeah, dude.
what would you say right now? How do you define success at this point in your life?
That's a good question. I'd say just happiness and gratitude. Like I definitely used to put a lot more emphasis on finances. I think it's going to be a component for everybody, like the way we live.
You got to survive with money, right?
Yeah, but to me, it's just bringing positive energy, to others around you, to yourself. Like to me, that's success. If you're living, feeling positive and healthy as possible,
Right.
it's. I think that to be able to enjoy life any given day, like even the hard days, just knowing that like life is good.
Life is good.
Yeah, it
Life
is.
is good. I wish more of our population would use their bodies more to enjoy life. You know what I'm saying? Like,
100%. Dude, the amount of the level of happiness would rise so quickly and
oh,
just like so many I don't know, I don't want to get too but like people would just feel way better. I think that sickness levels
oh,
would lower and
I'll get into it. We have a chronic obesity and
yeah,
weight and chronic healthcare issue in this country, and 90% of it could be solved with meeting your weekly recommended exercise recommendations per th- per the per the government regulations. This doesn't come from me. Um, and then just eating slightly better. I mean, you gotta eat pizza sometimes, man, but
yeah. You
put down the soda pop once in a while.
That's the thing, yeah. I mean, you can still enjoy all the junk food. You just have to do it intermittently and eat healthy
Yeah.
in between.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a balance. Life's a balance, diet's a balance. You know, you can go on hikes and then, you can spend a day just watching Netflix. It's all good.
there you go.
But you got to balance it out.
Yep.
Well, Alex, this was fun, man. I appreciate it. We're at about the 45-minute mark.
Yep.
Like I said, thank you for the time. It's been really fun. Still hoping to catch you out west. One of these winters. We're usually out there. We'll try to catch you this winter, get some laps in or something. Totally would love to do this again at some point. Like I said, this has been my outlet this winter. It's been fun to chat with some of you guys that I've been watching for years. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. This was awesome. I'm glad we got to connect and let's definitely do it again. And shred out here. You're always
Yeah,
welcome.
for sure. Yeah, we'll meet up. And again, I think just thank you again for being open with everything. You know, I'm a big Cavaliers fan, and Kevin Love was another one that came out and was very supportive of athletes and mental health awareness. So I think the more of you guys at the top of your game, like the more that we talk about it, and we're guys, like we just don't want to, guys are tough. We don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. Oh, we're soft or whatever. But we're all people. So definitely appreciate you being open, and hopefully some young athletes, if they're dealing with anything, I'm sure they could reach out to you, or if they're listening. Hopefully they
Please.
took some good tidbits away from today.
Absolutely. Being open, I'll tell you right now, I think that's one of the main reasons I've been able to succeed. It's just being honest and open and
Hmm.
letting it air out, like not keeping those cobwebs and dark spaces, unattended to. We're all human, and the amount of support that came from sharing the story, that was like one of the most beautiful things because I was like, I have no idea. People might just think I'm a POS.
Right.
That wasn't the case. So there's always space, dude. And like, yeah, if you're struggling, please reach out to me or a professional. It's it's tough, but like I'm telling you, there's so much light at the end of the tunnel. So keep going.
Yeah. Keep going, guys. All right, Alex. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks.